Have you ever felt like your deepest fears aren't just scary, but invisible to others? For INFJs, the world is full of intensity, insight, and empathy, but it also comes with fears that can silently control their lives. Today, we're breaking down the 6 deepest fears INFJs face, how they show up in daily life, and practical ways to fight them. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by your own thoughts or emotions, this guide is for you. Being misunderstood. For INFJs, one of the deepest fears is being misunderstood. It comes from the combination of their inner world, their idealism, and their natural desire to connect with others on a meaningful level. Unlike more surface-driven personalities, INFJs spend a lot of time developing complex inner thoughts, values, and perspectives. When those thoughts fail to land with others, they can feel a sharp sense of isolation, as if their inner world is invisible or irrelevant. This fear isn't irrational. INFJs process life differently. They rely on introverted intuition, which gives them big-picture insights, connections, and visions of how things could unfold. They mix this with deep empathy, constantly reading emotions and motives. So when they share their ideas, they often expect others to get it at the same depth. When that doesn't happen, it feels like rejection, even if no harm was intended. Being misunderstood shows up in daily life in subtle but consistent ways. An INFJ might explain a big vision or idea only to be met with blank stares. They might carefully word a message but have it interpreted in the wrong way. Or they might try to open up emotionally, and instead of being understood, they're dismissed as being too sensitive or over time, these small moments add up, reinforcing the belief that people can't truly see or value who they are. The problem grows because INFJs tend to withdraw rather than correct misunderstandings. Instead of clarifying, they think, if they didn't get me the first time, they never will. This creates a loop where INFJs feel increasingly unseen, leading to loneliness and even bitterness. They might start overanalyzing conversations, replaying what they said, and wondering if they should have spoken differently. But here's a practical truth. No one will ever fully understand another person. Even the closest relationships will carry gaps. For INFJs, the real work is not to erase the fear of misunderstanding, but to manage it in healthy ways. Here are steps to fight this fear in daily life. Adjust expectations. Instead of expecting people to immediately grasp the depth of your ideas or feelings, accept that most will connect at their own pace and level. Understanding often builds over time. By lowering the expectation of instant recognition, you remove some of the sting when it doesn't happen. Choose your audience. Not everyone has the capacity or interest to go deep. Identify the few people who consistently try to understand you, even if they don't always succeed. Focus your emotional energy on them, rather than scattering it everywhere. Practice clear communication. INFJs often speak in layers, metaphors, or hints. To reduce misunderstandings, practice saying things more directly. Ask yourself, how would I explain this to someone outside my head? This doesn't mean you need to dilute your thoughts, only that you structure them in a way that makes them easier to follow. Clarify before assuming rejection. If someone misunderstands, try saying, I think what I meant got lost. Let me rephrase. You'll find that many people are willing to listen, and often they misunderstood simply because of wording, not because they don't care. Create outlets of writing, art, or journaling can help INFJs express themselves fully without worrying about being misread. These outlets allow you to preserve the richness of your inner world, even if people in your immediate circle don't always see it. Reframe misunderstanding. Instead of viewing it as rejection, see it as a reminder that you think differently. That difference is part of your strength. Misunderstanding doesn't mean invisibility. It often means uniqueness. For example, an INFJ who shares a vision about a long-term project might feel crushed when their peers brush it off. Instead of retreating, they can reframe. Maybe they don't see the picture yet, but my ability to see this far ahead is rare. That reframing reduces the emotional sting and strengthens confidence. At the core, fighting this fear is about self-acceptance. The more comfortable an INFJ is with their own inner world, the less they rely on external validation to confirm it. Being misunderstood won't disappear, but it won't define their sense of worth. So the next time you share something and feel that familiar pang of being unseen, pause and remind yourself, understanding takes time, and I am worth being patient for, being powerless to help. INFJs are wired to care. They see pain, struggle, or confusion in others, and they instinctively want to step in and ease it. This is not just kindness, it is part of their identity. They thrive on being the person who listens, guides, and supports. But this strength carries a hidden fear, being powerless to help. For an INFJ, few things feel worse than seeing suffering and knowing there is nothing they can do to stop it. This fear stems from their deep empathy and idealism. INFJs sense emotions intensely, often picking up on unspoken pain. When they feel this but can't act, it creates a sense of helplessness. They think, if I can't make a difference, what's the point of my gift? Over time, this can spiral into guilt, as if not fixing a situation makes them responsible for the outcome. In daily life, this fear shows up in subtle but draining ways. An INFJ might obsess over a struggling friend, replaying conversations and searching for the perfect advice. They might overcommit to causes or responsibilities, thinking they're the only one who can fix things. Or they might stay awake at night, worrying about people they can't reach, or problems too big for one person. The fear creates burnout and, ironically, makes them less effective in helping at all. Here's how INFJs can fight this fear and reclaim balance. Redefine what helping means. Helping doesn't always mean fixing. Sometimes the greatest gift is presence. Listening without judgment, showing compassion, or simply being there can have more impact than solving a problem. Remind yourself, I don't have to cure the pain to be valuable. Support alone matters, accept limits. INFJs often believe they must solve everything once they notice it, but no one has unlimited energy or control. A practical exercise is to list the problems you care about, then divide them into 2 columns: what I can influence and what I can focus only on the first column. This shift reduces the feeling of being powerless, because you are directing energy where it has real effect. Let go of savior mode. The fear of being powerless often pushes INFJs into savior thinking. They feel they must be the one to rescue people, even at great personal cost. This can lead to overstepping boundaries or burning out. Reframe the role. You are not here to save everyone. You are here to contribute your piece alongside others. Problems are rarely solved by one person alone. Use micro-actions when faced with overwhelming issues. Break your response into small, concrete steps. Instead of thinking, I can't end their depression, focus on, I can check in regularly. Remind them they matter, and encourage professional help. Micro-actions keep you engaged without leaving you crushed by the scale of the problem. Learn to detach with compassion. Detachment doesn't mean indifference. It means acknowledging someone's pain without letting it consume you. For example, if a coworker is struggling but refuses support, instead of obsessing, say, I care and I'm here when you're ready. Then step back. This balance protects your energy while keeping the door open. Build resilience through you help more effectively when you're stable yourself. Think of it like maintaining a well. If you give water to everyone but never refill, you'll run dry. Prioritize rest, creative outlets, and solitude. These are not selfish. They are necessary to sustain your ability to help long-term. Here's a scenario. An INFJ sees a close friend stuck in a toxic relationship. They try to give advice, warnings, and emotional support, but the friend keeps returning to the same pattern. The INFJ feels powerless, even guilty, thinking, I failed to save them. The truth is, they cannot control someone else's choices. What they can do is stay present, set boundaries, and wait until the friend is ready. That is help enough. The deeper solution to this fear is acceptance. You are not responsible for every outcome. Being powerless to fix everything does not mean you are powerless to matter. By focusing on presence, influence within your limits, and sustainable giving, you preserve your strength while still offering genuine support. So, the next time you feel helpless, remind yourself, I don't have to do everything. I only have to do what I can. And what I can is enough. Abandonment and rejection. For INFJs, few things feel more painful than the thought of being abandoned or rejected. This fear ties directly to their desire for deep, lasting connections. Unlike people who thrive on a wide network of casual friends, INFJs usually invest their energy into a small circle of meaningful relationships. When those bonds are threatened, the fear of being left behind or deemed unworthy can become overwhelming. Psychologically, this fear is linked to how INFJs process relationships. They value loyalty, trust, and emotional intimacy above all. When they give themselves to someone, they don't do it lightly. Their commitment runs deep, so the risk of losing that bond feels heavier. For them, abandonment is not simply losing a friend or partner. It's losing a part of themselves. This fear often comes from past experiences. INFJs may recall moments when they opened up and were ignored, betrayed, or left behind. These early wounds create a lasting sensitivity to rejection. They may develop patterns of self-protection, such as withdrawing before others can walk away or overgiving to prove their worth in a relationship. Both patterns reinforce the same cycle of anxiety. If I'm not perfect, I'll be left. You'll see this fear show up in daily life, in small ways. An INFJ might panic when someone takes too long to reply to a message. They might assume a friend canceling plans means the relationship is dying. Or they might overanalyze every word of feedback in a relationship, convinced it's a sign of coming rejection. These habits are exhausting and leave INFJs feeling insecure, even in stable relationships. But while the fear is powerful, it doesn't have to rule your life. Here are steps to fight it and build resilience. Recognize the projection. Often, the fear of abandonment is less about what's happening now and more about past wounds. Ask yourself, is this situation really about the present, or am I replaying an old hurt? Learning to separate the past from the present prevents unnecessary panic. Stop testing loyalty. INFJs sometimes test people without realizing it, by pulling away to see if the other person chases or by overanalyzing small signs. These tests often backfire, creating the very distance they fear. Instead, communicate directly. If you feel unsure, say, I'm feeling a little insecure about where we stand. Can we talk about it? This honesty often strengthens bonds. Balanced giving and receiving. Many INFJs overextend themselves in relationships, thinking, if I give enough, they'll never leave. But this creates imbalance and resentment. A healthier approach is to check, am I giving because I want to, or because I fear being left? Learning to give from choice rather than fear makes relationships healthier and less fragile. Develop self-soothing strategies. When the fear spikes, don't rush to your phone for reassurance or spiral into analysis. Instead, build practices that calm you internally. Breathing exercises, journaling, or reminding yourself of past times when fears were wrong can ground you in reality. Redefine rejection. Not every ending is a failure. Sometimes relationships fade because they served their purpose. For an INFJ, this can feel like abandonment, but reframing it as growth helps. Instead of asking, why wasn't I enough? Ask, what did this relationship teach me, and how am I stronger now? Choose secure people. INFJs sometimes attach to emotionally unavailable or inconsistent people, reinforcing their fears. Learning to identify and invest in people who are steady, communicative, and trustworthy lowers the risk of abandonment. Here as an example, an INFJ dating someone who is inconsistent might obsess over every gap in communication, thinking, they're going to leave me. This leads them to over-apologize or over-give, which drains them. But if they instead step back and ask, is this person consistently showing up for me? They can see the truth. If the answer is no, then the problem isn't abandonment. It's misaligned trust. The deeper solution is when INFJs build a strong sense of inner worth, rejection loses its power. They begin to realize, if someone walks away, it doesn't mean I am unworthy. It means they were not aligned with me. This shift takes time, but it transforms fear into resilience. Abandonment will always sting, but it doesn't have to control you. When you stop equating rejection with failure, you gain freedom. The relationships that remain are not built on fear, but on mutual respect and genuine love. So the next time your mind whispers, they're going to leave, pause and remind yourself, if they do, I will still stand. And if they stay, it's because they truly want to. Betrayal of trust. For INFJs, trust is sacred. They don't hand it out lightly. Because they are naturally private and protective of their inner world, they only let a few people pass their walls. When they do, they open themselves fully. This is why betrayal of trust is one of their deepest fears. To an INFJ, betrayal is not simply about lies or broken promises. It's about having their vulnerability used against them. Psychologically, this fear ties to the INFJ's mix of intuition and empathy. They often sense others' needs and feelings before those people even speak. When Tehibe, they give selflessly. In return, they hope for loyalty and honesty. But when someone they trusted deceives them, the wound cuts deeper than it might for others. It shakes their confidence in their own judgment. They think, I should have seen this coming. How could I miss the signs? This self-blame adds another layer of pain on top of the betrayal. You'll see this fear in daily life when INFJs hesitate to open up fully, even to people they care about. They might hold back details of their inner thoughts, waiting to be sure the other person won't use them carelessly. Or they might replay past betrayals, struggling to trust again. Even in stable relationships, they might stay hypervigilant for small signals of dishonesty. This constant scanning is draining, yet it feels necessary for their protection. Here's how INFJs can fight this fear and move toward healthier trust. Understand that betrayal says more about them than about you. When someone breaks trust, it reflects their values and choices, not your worth. INFJs often internalize betrayal as a personal failure, but reframing it as someone else's weakness helps remove unnecessary guilt. Recognize that trust is a process. INFJs often leap from guarded to fully open in one step, because once they sense connection, they want depth. This makes betrayal riskier. A healthier approach is to let trust build gradually. Share small parts of yourself. See how they are handled. 10. Go deeper. This way, you test reliability without giving everything at once. Watch for patterns, not promises. Betrayers often use words to mask their intentions. INFJs, being idealistic, want to believe in those words. Instead of relying on promises, focus on consistent behavior. Ask, do their actions match what they say? This method is harder to fake and a better foundation for trust. Don't punish new people for old wounds. After betrayal, INFJs may become overly cautious, assuming everyone will eventually hurt them. But not everyone deserves to carry the weight of someone else's actions. A practical exercise is to remind yourself, this person is not them. Let's see how they show up. This mindset allows new bonds to form without being poisoned by the past. Have clear boundaries. Betrayal hurts more when INFJs give too much too quickly. Learning to set boundaries prevents overexposure. For example, instead of telling a new friend every painful detail of your past, share gradually and see how they respond. Boundaries don't block connection, they protect it. Learn to forgive, but not forget. Forgiveness is about releasing yourself from bitterness, not excusing what happened. When INFJs hold grudges, they feel the weight constantly. But forgiveness allows them to move forward without carrying the betrayer in their mind. At the same time, remembering the lesson helps prevent repeating the same mistake. Here's a real example. An INFJ might share a secret with a friend, only to find it repeated elsewhere. Their instinct might be to shut down and swear never to open up again. But a healthier response is to acknowledge that friend proved they are careless with trust. Instead of closing themselves off entirely, the INFJ can use this data to adjust choosing more carefully next time, but still keeping the door open for trustworthy people. The deeper solution lies in accepting that betrayal, while painful, is part of human risk. Trust will always carry a chance of disappointment, but without it, relationships remain shallow. For INFJs, the goal is not to eliminate that risk, but to strengthen resilience. By balancing openness with boundaries, they can experience real connection without leaving themselves completely exposed. So when the fear is when you find yourself replaying old betrayals or second-guessing, someone closer remind yourself, I am wiser now. Betrayal is a reflection of their choices, not my worth, and I will not let one wound close the door on all connection. Losing identity. INFJs carry a strong sense of individuality, yet one of their greatest fears is losing their identity. This fear grows from their natural empathy and desire to meet the needs of others. Because they are so attuned to people's emotions, INFJs can slip into roles and expectations that aren't truly theirs. Over time, they risk waking up one day and realizing they've been living someone else's life instead of their own. This fear has deep psychological roots. INFJs crave harmony and connection. They often act as mediators, caretakers, or peacemakers in their environments. They sense what others want from them and adapt quickly to provide it. On the surface, this looks like generosity, but underneath, it creates tension. When you spend too much time bending to others' needs, you lose track of your own. It shows up in daily life in many ways. An INFJ might say yes to commitments they don't want. Just to avoid conflict, they might adopt the interests or opinions of their friends or partner, believing it will strengthen the bond. Or they might invest so heavily in helping others that they neglect their own passions and goals. This leads to a quiet identity crisis. They start asking, who am I outside of what I give to others? This fear intensifies in close relationships. Because INFJs value intimacy so deeply, they risk merging too much with their partner's identity. They can lose sight of their individuality, thinking, if I just become what they need, I won't be abandoned. But instead of security, this leads to emptiness. Here's how INFJs can fight the fear of losing themselves. Practice regularly ask yourself, is this what I want? Or am I doing it for someone else? Journaling can help separate your desires from external pressures. For example, if you find yourself pursuing a career path, ask, does this excite me, or am I chasing approval? These reflections keep you grounded in your authentic self. Strengthen your no. Saying no is one of the hardest skills for INFJs, but it's also the most liberating. Start with small rejections, like turning down a social event you don't want to attend. Over time, you'll build the muscle of protecting your boundaries. Each no you say to what doesn't align frees space for what does. Keep personal anchors. Anchors are activities, hobbies, or values that remind you of who you are. This might be writing, creating art, studying philosophy, or spending time in nature. These practices connect you back to yourself when external demands threaten to pull you away. Schedule time for them, like appointments. Define your Make a list of values or goals you refuse to sacrifice. For example, I need creative expression. I need honest communication. I need space for solitude. Use these as a filter when making decisions. If a situation forces you to abandon these non-negotiables, it's not right for you. Separate empathy from obligation. INFJs often confuse feeling someone's need with having to meet it, but empathy doesn't always require action. You can understand someone's pain without sacrificing yourself to fix it. Practice saying, I hear you and I care, but this is not mine to carry. Surround yourself with people who respect your individuality. Healthy relationships don't demand you to shrink or mold yourself. Seek out friends and partners who encourage your independence. A simple test is, do I feel more myself with this person or less? If you consistently feel smaller, it's a warning sign. Consider this scenario. An INFJ invests years into helping a friend with their goals, neglecting their own dreams in the process. When the friendship fades, they're left with regret, wondering who they are outside of that role. The healthier approach would have been balance helping while still nurturing their own path. The deeper solution to this fear lies in radical self. When INFJs fully embrace who they are, they stop molding themselves to fit everyone else. They realize that their worth isn't in how much they give or how well they blend, but in the authenticity of their identity. So, when the fear creeps in and you feel yourself slipping into someone else's shadow, pause and remind yourself, my identity is not negotiable. I am not here to disappear into others. I am here to live as myself. Fear of not living up to potential. INFJs are often called visionaries or guides, carrying an almost magnetic sense of purpose. Deep down, many INFJs feel they were born to do something significant, to change lives, to create meaning, to leave a mark. This inner sense of destiny can be inspiring, but it also creates one of their most haunting fears, the fear of wasting their potential. Why this fear runs so deep? From a young age, INFJs often sense they are different. They perceive patterns others miss, empathize deeply, and imagine futures that others haven't thought of yet. These gifts can feel like both a blessing and a responsibility. If others see their insights and expect them to do something great, or if INFJs themselves internalize the belief that they're meant for something bigger, then every step in life becomes a test. Am I doing enough? Am I on the right path? What if I fail and my potential goes unused? This leads to a crushing pressure. Unlike some types who are content with small wins or day-to-day satisfaction, INFJs feel like they're running out of time to fulfill a larger purpose. And when they compare their ideals with their current reality, they often feel they're falling short, the trap of perfectionism. This fear often manifests as perfectionism. Because INFJs crave excellence, they delay action until conditions feel just right. They want their creative projects to be flawless, their careers to align perfectly with their values, their relationships to be deeply fulfilling. But perfection is a moving target. Waiting for it leads to procrastination, which leads to regret, which deepens the fear of wasted potential, creating a vicious cycle. Ironically, this makes INFJs live less of their potential, not more. The fear of imperfection becomes the very thing that prevents them from actualizing their gifts. How this fear shapes INFJ behavior. Chronic doubt. They constantly second-guess their decisions, worried that any wrong move will derail their life mission. Overthinking. They may analyze every possible outcome, but never take the leap. Burnout. When they finally do act, they may pushing themselves too hard to make up for lost time. Hidden shame. Many INFJs secretly feel they're underachieving, even when others admire their accomplishments. Fighting the fear of wasted potential. Overcoming this fear requires shifting from an all-or-nothing mindset to one that honors progress, process, and authenticity. 1. Redefine potential. The first step is to reframe what living up to potential even means. INFJs often imagine potential as a single, monumental life mission, writing a groundbreaking book, leading a movement, or becoming a world changer. But potential isn't about one grand act. It's about consistently expressing your values and gifts in ways that impact others. A kind conversation, an insightful idea shared, or a meaningful project completed can be just as transformative as grand achievements. 2. Focus on daily alignment, not future perfection. Instead of asking, "Am I fulfilling my ultimate purpose?" ask, "Am I living today in alignment with what matters to me?" Daily alignment with values, creativity, compassion, truth ensures that the INFJ's life naturally builds into something meaningful over time, without the crushing pressure of needing to figure it all out. 3. Start small and build momentum. INFJs often delay projects because they envision them fully formed from the start. The trick is to start imperfectly. Write one page instead of waiting for the entire book outline. Launch a small initiative instead of holding out for a polished movement. Each small step builds momentum and confidence, proving that potential is realized through action, not endless planning. 4. Embrace failure as fuel. One of the biggest blocks to INFJ potential is their fear of failure. They equate mistakes with proof they weren't meant for greatness. But in truth, failure is the soil where potential grows. By reframing mistakes as learning experiences, INFJs can release the pressure of needing to get it right on the first try. Every failed attempt is simply feedback, not a death sentence, for their purpose. 5. Celebrate quiet impact. Not all impact is loud or visible. An INFJ who mentors one person, creates art that touches a handful of hearts, or builds a safe haven for loved ones, is fulfilling their potential in just as valid a way as leading a movement. Recognizing the beauty of quiet, subtle impact allows INFJs to honor their purpose without chasing unattainable standards. 6. Reclaim time from comparison. Comparison is a silent killer of INFJ potential. Seeing peers achieve more or get further can trigger panic. But INFJs must remember their path is uniquely timed. Instead of measuring progress against others, they must measure it against their own growth, who they were yesterday versus who they are today. For INFJs, the fear of not living up to potential is less about laziness and more about paralysis. Their ideals can be so towering that they become overwhelming. The key is to reframe potential as a daily practice, not a final destination. By taking small, consistent steps, embracing failure, and recognizing that even quiet impact matters, INFJs can release the pressure of destiny and instead live authentically in the present. When they do, they discover that their potential was never about one grand achievement. It was about living truthfully, moment by moment, and letting those moments ripple out to create the meaningful legacy they were always meant to leave. Facing your fears doesn't mean eliminating them. For INFJs, it means understanding them, setting boundaries, and taking small, intentional steps toward authenticity and fulfillment. Remember, being aware of your fears gives you the power to rise above them. Start small, stay true to yourself, and watch how your inner strength transforms every connection, decision, and moment.